Hello learners and viewers, welcome to NIS Studio and also welcome to Environmental Science Senior course of NIS. This is a live e-Vidya program. As we know learners that in nature there are so many catastrophes like flood, drought, earthquake, tsunami happens from time to time causing immense damage to human life, animal life and property too. So, it is important to devise means and methods to manage and minimize from natural disaster as far as possible. So, we learn about or we will discuss about causes, effect, prevention and management of natural disasters during this program. I am Neelam Gupta, course coordinator of environmental science. Welcome you again in this program. So, we are discussing right now lesson number 12, disaster and their management, part 1 of module 4, contemporary environmental issues. So, during this program we will discuss about how ecological balance is maintained in nature, what is disaster, different types of disaster included natural disaster as well as man-made disaster, their causes, effect and management of some disasters, natural disaster, flood, cyclone, drought, earthquake and tsunami. So, now first we will talk about disaster mean. So, we will define disaster as a crisis situation causing widespread damage which far exceed about ability to recover, and another form we can define disaster an event that causes serious harm to people, buildings, economies and or environment, and the affected community cannot handle it alone. So, it is a serious disruption of the functioning of a community or a society involving widespread human, material, economic or environmental impact, losses and impact which exceed the ability of the affected community or society to cope using its own resources. So, we have talked about disaster, but first we will talk about natural resources, what is natural resources, and later we will talk about the ecological balance of the earth or nature. So, natural resources means anything or something found in nature that people can meet their needs, and these resources is known as natural resources, and these natural resources can be renewable or non-renewable. Two types of resources, renewable and non-renewable. So, renewable resources are those that are constantly available like water or air or can be replaced. These resources can be reasonably replaced or recovered. Examples: soil, air, water, plants and animals are also renewable resources as they produce offsprings to replace adult animals. And non-renewable resources are those that cannot easily be replaced, they are destroyed or we cannot revive in our lifetime. And examples included fossil fuels, minerals, and minerals are also we can consider as a non-renewable resources because even though they form naturally in a process that is called rock cycle, but it can take thousands of years making it non-renewable. So, now come to the what is ecological balance. So, nature has its own tendency to balance itself. So, when resources are used, they can replenish naturally through biogeochemical cycle, even food cycles as well as food webs, and these cycles or these processes maintain an equilibrium in the nature. So, this is ecological balance. So, because we are discussing disasters, so we just remind the term disaster because we are going discussing onward disaster and their management too, or especially natural disasters, different type of natural disasters. So, just remind term disaster means a crisis situation causing widespread damage which far exceeded our ability to recover, and disaster may be two types: natural disasters and man-made disasters. Look at the figure. Natural disaster includes flood, drought, cyclone, tsunami, earthquake and cloud burst. When we come to the man-made disasters, they can be fire, railroad train accidents and industrial accidents, chemical disasters. So, before we start natural disaster in detail, we will talk about little bit about disaster management. What is disaster management? It essentially deals with the management of resources and information towards a disaster event and is measured by how efficiently, effectively and seamlessly one coordinates these resources. So, disaster management can be done at the individual and organization level with the issue of planning, coordination, communication and risk assessment. So, accordingly this program will cover these subjects to enhance our ability for better disaster response. India is a disaster prone area. So, we have faced so many disasters during the century, we can say, or last 20-30 years. So, there are some major disaster examples of major disaster in India. Latur earthquake in Maharashtra 1993, super cyclone in Odisha 1999, earthquake in Gujarat, Bhuj 2001, tsunami in 2004, Uttarakhand flash flood 2013, Kashmir flood, Kerala floods in 2014 and 2018 respectively, and super cyclone which struck West Bengal, Odisha and Bangladesh known as cyclone M-4. It occurred in May 2020. So, during this program we have already said that we will discuss about natural disasters. So, first we will take flood. So, flood are caused either man-made or natural, and there are so many factors. Some obvious causes of flood are strong winds, heavy rains, melting snow and ice, sometimes maybe dam burst and frequent storm within a short time of span. So, common practice of humans, other reason can be people suffer floods. So, common practice of humans to build homes and towns near rivers and other water bodies has contributed the disastrous consequences of flood. In fact, floods have historically killed more people than any other form of disaster, natural disaster, especially natural disaster, and floods are generally developed over a period of days. When there is too much water or rain, this water cannot fit in the river, and this water is spread over the land next to it, that is floodplain. However, they can happen very quickly when lots of heavy rains over a short period of time, and these flash floods occur with little or no warning and cause the biggest loss of human life than any other type of the flooding. So, these are the effects of flood. Flood can have devastating consequences and can have affect our economy, environment and humans, as well as our cattle and our agriculture. During floods, roads, bridges, farmhouses and automobiles also destroyed. People became homeless. All these come to at a heavy cost to people and the government. It usually takes years for affected community to be recovered and rebuilt and business to come back to normalcy, because everything is vanished. Water supply, other crisis can be water supply and electricity. These are also disrupted and people struggle and suffer as a result. Environment also suffers when flood happens. Chemicals and other hazardous substances enter the water and eventually contaminate the water bodies that floods end up in. So, in addition of this, flooding brings a lot of diseases also and infection, including fever, pneumonic plague, diarrhea, dysentery, and many other things. Sometimes snakes and insects are also mixed with flood water that makes their way in the area and causes a great havoc too. So, how do we manage these floods? In India, basically systematic planning for flood management commenced with the 5-year plans, particularly with the launching of the National Program of Flood Management in 1954, and during last 70 years different methods of flood protection and structure as well as non-structural have been adopted in different states depending on the nature of the problem and local conditions. So, structural means including storage reservoirs, flood embankment, drainage, channels, anti-erosion work, channel improvement works, detention basins. Non-structural measures include flood forecasting, floodplain zoning, flood proofing and disaster preparedness. Sometimes it might not be possible to prevent a flood, but even if we know that it is about to get flooded, however, there are certain actions that can be taken to reduce the impact significantly or to reduce the possibilities of flooding. So, they can be in flood control involves the combination of engineering, environmental and planning strategies to reduce the impact of the flood on people, property and ecosystem. So, we have already told structure method and non-structural method. Preparedness and monitoring also include flood forecasting and especially community education, emergency response plans as well as warning system too. So, now we move to the ways to flood control. So, first step is to keep the drainage system clean. This allows water to be carried down very fast. Choke drains causes a significant reduction in the ability and speed of the water to be drained away. In the most situation of urban flooding, there is a major cause. Drain might get choked due to throwing of solid waste. We can experience when we move to the roadside, every drainage hole can be blocked. We can see blocked by polythene paper, some garbage. So, drains might get choked due to throwing of solid waste. It includes construction material, plastic papers, falling tree leaves inside storm drains. General cleanup of streets is also important. As rainwater falls down to the street, it rushes into the storm drains. If the streets are not clean, rainwater trying to go into the drain carries solid waste into the drain with itself, which then obstructs the flow of water by the drainage system. If there are several rainwater harvesting systems, the rainfall falling in that much area would try to go to the subsoil of the region locally rather than straining the drainage system. So, lower is the amount of water trying to go through the drainage system, the easier it is for the drainage system to drain off the water. Desilting, when drains should be desilted before the onset of the rainy season, and now our government also trying to clean the drains before rainy season. This also prevents the drains from getting choked, and also it also increases the water holding capacity of the drain, as accumulated silt prevents that much more water from being accumulated in the drains. Inspection and repairs of dams, levees, embankment before rainy season. These structures should be thoroughly inspected for possible weak spots, and these should be repaired previously. Afforestation also helps to cure the flood water. Afforestation helps in binding the loose soil. The most major impact of this is flood water races through. It might get loose soil with it. These loose soil will now choke the drains as well as water harvesting system. So, rendering both these are ineffective. Tree on the other hand, we also know that trees prevent soil erosion or prevent soil to flow with the water, as the roots of the tree holds the or act binding force. Another major impact of that afforestation provides is by reducing the impact of flowing water. This has impact on large scale flooding such as overflowing river. As water charge forward, its speed is reduced to some extent due to resistance offered by trees. This can reduce the force of the charging water, thereby reducing structural damage due to weakening in the force with which water hits various structures. Local lowlands should have storm drains so that water does not get accumulated here. These drains should have some kind of mesh covering so that only water can flow it. Leaves and other solid debris should not go in these drains. Local embankment around low-lying houses, or like we can say, for some reason your house is at the lower level that its vicinity. This can happen when you have constructed a basement which is obviously lower than the road level, or over a period of years the road level has risen due to repeated tearing. This is also caused. So, in such cases you should create a local embankment between the street and your house, so that water cannot flow down from the street or roadside inside your house. These embankments might be permanent in the form of concrete structure. So, there are so many precautionary measures for flood during flood, or so how can we take these measures? There are several various ways. Don't touch any loose or electric wires to avoid electrocution. Don't spread rumors or listen them. Make provision for adults and children who need a special diet. After the flood is over, get yourself and your family members inoculated against diseases and seek medical care for injured and sick persons. Clear the house and dwellings of debris. Report any loss to the revenue authorities. So, next disaster, natural disaster is drought. Drought means when rainfall is not up to the mark or lower than the normal expected amount. So, this condition is known as drought. So, drought is an event that results from lower than normal expected rainfall over a season or period. The low rainfall is insufficient to meet the needs of the human beings, plants, animals, and for agriculture too. So, there are some causes for drought. One is scanty rainfall, second was deforestation, and third one is environmental degradation. So, we will talk about in detail what is scanty rainfall. So, drought can occur when there is a lack of expected precipitation. Some regions can go for months without any rain, and that would be normal for them. Farmers planted plants in anticipation of rains, and so when the rain do not come, the irrigation infrastructure is absent, agricultural drought occurs. Deforestation means cutting of trees, or deforestation is the name of economics, will expose surface water to more evaporation. It will also reduce the ability of the ground to hold water and make it easier for deforestation to occur, and it can set off drying conditions, especially for smaller water bodies. And cutting down trees is known to reduce a forest's watershed potential. Environmental degradation is also one of the major cause for drought. Unusual warming or cooling of sea surface temperature can create a change in the air temperature. This change of air temperature can affect the local or location of convection currents. Those are responsible for weather patterns, shifting warmer air over previously cooler locations. Heated air pulls moisture from the soil. It allows to form cloud and return to the earth as rain when it enters the cooler upper atmosphere. If weather pattern shifts enough to create an area with little rainfall over a period of time, there is not enough moisture in the soil to draw up into the air to create clouds once the weather pattern shifts back to its former location. Moisture continues to be removed from the soil on a daily basis, and no rain clouds are able to form or replace moisture. And drought also have severe effects. Most severe effect on agriculture. To start with drought effects, mostly rain-fed crops and subsequent the irrigated crop, herdsmen, landless laborers, subsistence farmers, women, children and farm animals are the most affected these droughts. Crop failure leading to large scale starvation and death, affected dairy activities, timber and fisheries too. It also increases unemployment, depletion of groundwater, increasing energy consumption for pumping water from deep aquifers, and it also reduce electric energy production in hydroelectric power plant due to the lack of sufficient rainfall. Drought also affect loss of biodiversity, reduce landscape quality, causes health problem, increase poverty, reduce quality of life and social unrest, leading to migration. So, how can we manage these droughts? So, now let us discuss about this. We can manage by several ways. So, first, rainwater harvesting, reduce water consumption, efficient irrigation and sowing, reuse wastewater and reduce wastage too. So, we will discuss little in detail. Water, we know water is a precious and scarce commodity everywhere in the world, and humans need to use water wisely as such. Even if there is water available, so it is also important because the practice makes us cope better than when there is a shortage. Also preserve water leaves enough to be stored in drains, reservoirs and even turned into ponds. We must learn to conserve water if there is no drought. With the right attitude towards water, we are better prepared to face the impact in case there is any shortage. Sometimes canals and pipelines are built to connect places with abundant water to place with less water. Projects that can be very expensive, but they ensure that during droughts there can be some water flow until traditional water supply sources improve. So, now we will discuss next natural disaster, that is earthquake. So, we have often experienced the shake of earthquake. And what is earthquake? Earthquake is a result of the sudden release of energy in the earth crust that creates seismic waves and sudden rapid shaking of the earth caused by breaking and shifting of rocks beneath the earth's surface. So, now we talk how can we measure intensity of the earthquake. So, there are a number of ways to measure magnitude of the earthquake. So, first widely used method is Richter scale, was developed by Charles F. Richter in 1934. It used a formula based on amplitude of the largest wave recorded on a specific type of seismometer and the distance between the earthquake and the seismometer. On the Richter scale, magnitude is expressed in whole numbers and decimal fractions. Earthquake with magnitude of about 2 or less are usually called micro earthquakes. They are not commonly felt by people and are generally recorded only on local seismographs. Events with magnitude of about 4.5 or greater, so there are several thousand such shocks annually, are strong enough to be recorded by sensitive seismographs all over the world. Great earthquakes have magnitude of 8 or higher, and these are the very severe damage. So, look at the intensity of the earthquake on Richter scale. When earthquake magnitude is up to 3, no damage. If 3 to 8, between 3 to 5 means cracks, you find cracks in old buildings. If magnitude is 5 to 7, cracks, also seen cracks in roads, and above 8 magnitude, collapse of buildings. So, Richter scale is not commonly used in anymore. It has been replaced by another scale called the movement magnitude scale, which is more accurate measure of the earthquake size. So, now we have talked about how can measure earthquake or what is earthquake. Now, we will see how an earthquake occurs. So, look at the diagram. Earthquake happens when energy stored in the earth's crust is suddenly released, causing the ground to shake. So, there is some process. First, tectonic plate movement. So, Earth's outer shell is divided into large pieces called tectonic plates. These plates are constantly moving, but very slowly, just a few centimeters per year. Most earthquake occurs along plate boundaries which plates interact. Second, stress building up. As plates move, they can get stuck due to the friction. Stress build up in the rocks along faults in the earth's crust. When the stress exceeds the strength of the rocks, it causes a sudden rupture. When sudden release of energy is also cause of the process for earthquake. Build up energy is released in the form of seismic waves. These waves travel through the earth, shaking the ground as they go. The point inside the earth where the rupture starts is called the focus. During the earthquake and afterward, the plates or block of rock starting moving, and they continue to move until they get stuck again. The spot underground where the rock breaks is called the focus of the earthquake. The place right above the focus is called epicenter of the earthquake. So, we have talked about how earthquake occurs. We have talked about how to measure earthquake. So, we will take a little break. After break, we will discuss effect of earthquake. Before taking a break, we are discuss about disaster, different type of disaster, that is natural disaster as well as man-made disaster. We have discussed about how nature has does its ecological balance. We have also discussed about in detail flood, drought, and what is earthquake, how can we measure earthquake, and how an earthquake occurs, how does earthquake occurs. So, to continue this discussion, we will talk about the effects of the earthquake. So, there are several effects like collapsing of building, floods, landslide, tsunami. So, we will discuss in detail. First, we will talk about collapsing of building as the effect of earthquake. We have seen collapsing building, walls, bridges, falling furniture or objects when earthquake occurs. It is also shattering glasses, windows and mirrors. This is also a very dangerous since the impact of large heavy objects can be fatal for human beings. After earthquake, when dams wall cracks, so there is a great cause of flood. So, earthquake can cause dam walls to crack and eventually collapse, sending raging water into surrounding areas and causing severe flooding. During earthquake, landslide also occur. Large rocks and portions of the earth high up in the hill areas can become dislodged and rapidly roll or slide down into the valley or kill so many people. So now, after earthquake, tsunami is also occur. Tsunami is a large sea wave or series of waves that can be generated by these earthquakes. One of the more effect is liquefaction. What is this? When sediments with a high water content are subjected to prolonged shaking, the pressure of the water held in pores in the sediments gradually increases. Eventually, the sediments lose the all cohesive strength and begin to behave as if they were liquids. Building and other structures sinks into the ground or overturn, and buried tanks and other cavities rise to the surface. So, now we will move next section, that is how can we manage earthquake or management of the earthquake. So, we know India's increasing population and extensive unscientific constructions mushroom all over, including multi-stories, luxury apartments, huge factory buildings, gigantic malls, supermarkets as well as warehouses and machinery buildings keep India at high risk. During the last 25 years, India or our country has experienced 10 major earthquakes that have resulted in more than 20,000 deaths. So, as per the current seismic zone map of the country, over 59% of India's land is under threat of moderate to severe seismic hazard. That means it is prone to shaking. In fact, the entire Himalayan belt is considered prone to great earthquakes of magnitude exceeding 8. In a relatively short span of about 50 years, 4 such earthquakes occurred: Shillong, Kangra, Bihar and Assam. Earthquake can be managed by the several factors. However, there are limitations to all these factors listed. So, this is the flow chart which shows we have to prepare good building design, soil analysis. First, we should soil analysis for construction of houses, then base certification, approval from the government bodies, and training for all builders, architect, contractor, owner by the government. So, these are the how can this is possible. So, managing earthquake involve a combination of preparedness, emergency response and recovery strategies. Nowadays, it is being advised to build earthquake resistant building by using flexible material and proper engineering, to retrofit old buildings to meet seismic safety measures and secure heavy furniture and appliances to wall. Also emphasize to create a family emergency plan with meeting point and contact information. It's necessary for urban planning. Soil check is necessary to avoid buildings on fault line or unstable soil, and how to build an earthquake resistant building. So, it is compulsory to train builders, architects, contractors, owners by the government. There, when earthquake occurs, so we can take precautionary measures. So, there are several precautionary measures. First, move out in the open, don't get panic, keep away from lift, windows and furniture, stand under strong beams. If movement restricted, cover head. In multi-story building, stay indoor, stop vehicle during travel, check for damage and clear blockage, apply first aid in injuries, stay away from building. So, these are some precautionary measures. Now, we move to the next natural disaster, that is cyclone. Cyclone refers to any spinning storm that rotates around the low pressure center. The low pressure center is also referred to as in the eye of the storm, which is well known for being eerily calm compared then with the area under the spinning arm of the storm. So, you could say that the eye is watching what's going on down below. So, it is needs a clear path, but the arms are where all the action happens, because this is where the storm is throwing out all of its rain and wind. So, causes of cyclone, it tends to come about the same way in all areas and revolve around the low pressure eye. Warm air likes to rise, and as it rises it cools. Cool air cannot hold as much moisture as warm air, so that water gets squeezed out from of the condensing air and a cloud begins to form. So, if the warm air rises very quickly, these creates an updraft. Likewise, if the water in the cloud builds up enough, it may fall back to the ground as rain and drop cool air down with it as a downdraft. When they work together, that warm updraft and cool downdraft create a storm cell. As this process continues, the cloud grows and we eventually get a large thunderstorm cloud. This thunderstorm cloud is now ready to diversify into other storms like tropical cyclone and tornadoes, but this can't happen unless the air is in the cloud starts spinning horizontally. If this occurs over the tropical ocean, it is called a tropical depression. This is like a baby tropical cyclone with wind speed less than 30 miles per hour. If it starts spinning even faster and has wind speeds between 40 to 70 miles per hour, we have a tropical storm. If the storm grows even larger over the tropical ocean and has wind speed about 74 miles per hour, we have our full grown hurricane, typhoon or cyclone, depending on where the storm is found. If the spinning occurs over land, mesocyclone occurs. If the mesocyclone gets spinning fast enough that the cloud starts reaching towards the ground like a long arm, this is the beginning of a tornado. If the cloud's arm reaches all the way to the ground and grabs hold, this is now officially a tornado, ready to suck up everything in its path like a giant vacuum cleaner hose. So, these are the effects of the cyclone. Cyclone is a global disaster. it can cause wind and water preventive building envelope, uplift of roof system, flying debris penetrates windows, storm surge, heavy precipitation in a short time, flash flooding and landslide. So, how to manage a cyclone? So, India is quite susceptible to cyclone and floods due to its geographical location, surrounded by all three sides with water or oceans. West Bengal, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Gujarat comes under more severely cyclone and flood affected areas of India. In each of these states, there is a need to identify the most severely flood affected districts and blocks so that contingency measures can be taken at accurate level. So, as there is no sign, approach will be able to address the community's vulnerability to hazard. A multi-pronged, most effective approach is required to reduce the risk, incorporating protection, accommodation and retreat option to handle the cyclone risk. Once in overall strategies identify comprising protection, accommodation, retreat or a combination thereof, specific measures are applied to handle the hazards. So, first identify cyclone prone area, design building that can resist uplift and develop green coastal belt. So, there are some long term measures to construction of cyclone center, canal and embankments for improved drainage, missing road links, shelter bank plantation, institution capacity building and hazard reduction studies, improvement of onshore warning system and awareness generation for cyclone risk mitigation. So, now we move to the last or natural disaster that we will discuss during the program, that is tsunami. So, what is tsunami? Tsunami is a set of ocean waves caused by a large abrupt disturbance of the ocean surface. This will often be an earthquake greater than magnitude 7, which displays enough water to form waves. Tsunami is also known as seismic sea wave or tidal wave, catastrophic ocean wave. So, this is flow chart which shows what causes tsunami. So, there is a process of creating a tsunami in this figure. First, dense ocean based plates of the earth crust called tectonic plates side beneath the plates containing continents. Second, from the time to time, this movement causes fracturing of the rock. The fracturing results in an earthquake in the form of earthquake, in addition to spreading vibrations through the ground. However, the actual movement of the underwater rock layers can push the sea upward quite suddenly, and this causes an ever widening circle of waves to spread. Far out to the sea, these waves may be 30 centimeter or high, not only enough to notice. These waves contain tremendous amount of energy and however moving at a speed of up to 800 km per hour. As waves draw close to the shore, however friction with the ocean floor causes them to slow down but increases in height. A tsunami may not invade the shore as giant breaking waves. It may look more like a rapidly rising tide. The only warning coastal residents may get is when the waterline mysteriously retreats just before the tsunami arrives. A tsunami can demolish buildings, flip vehicles and wash people outside the sea. Damage can extend inland 30 meters or above. So, these are the effect of the tsunami. Effect of the tsunami are quite similar to those cyclone of floods. Huge waves of seawater enters the great force and flood the land and wash away human settlements, agriculture crops and other properties too. The famous tsunami of December 2004 has had devastating effect in many countries, particularly in Indonesia, Malaysia, Sri Lanka and India. One large area of the coastal districts of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, more than 2 lakhs people died in 8 Asian countries including India. How do we manage the tsunami? Mitigation measures are quite similar to those for the cyclone and flood, which we have discussed during this discussion. So, before we wrap up, we would like to recap the main points what we have discussed today. So, we know India subcontinent is highly prone to natural disaster. Flood, droughts, cyclone and earthquake are a recurrent phenomena in India. Floods are temporary inundation of large region as a result of increase in level of river or reservoir during heavy rains. Due to heavy rains, high winds, cyclone, tsunami, melting snow and dam burst. Flood causes heavy toll of life for people, livestock and materials. Deforestation resulting in soil erosion causing siltation of the river and reservoirs can enhance the incident of floods. Drought is an event which results from lower rainfall than expected over a season or period. The rainfall is insufficient to meet the need of human beings, plants, animals and agriculture. The most important effect of drought is on agriculture. It also affects dairy activities, fisheries and increasing unemployment, causes loss of biodiversity, groundwater depletion and food shortage causing starvation deaths, health reduction, increased poverty, reduced quality of life and social unrest, leading to migration. Earthquake is a sudden release of energy accumulated in deformed rocks of the earth crust, causing the ground to tremor or shake. The most important effect of earthquake is collapse of buildings, especially high-rise building or building are built on weak foundation, endangering human lives and properties. Cyclone refers to any spinning storm that rotates around a low pressure center, and tsunami is a set of ocean waves caused by a large abrupt disturbance of the surface, and this will often be an earthquake greater than magnitude 7 which displays enough water to form waves. So, dear learners, this is all about disaster and their management part 1. We have discussed natural disaster in detail during this program. We will come again to meet you in a new program of environmental science. Till then, goodbye and thank you.